Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Chastity. If you're new here, we read a lot of books, we do a lot of things. It's kind of the whole shtick. If you read the title of the video, you know why we're here. It is our 2025 wrap-up. What did Chastity read this year? As I was collecting all of my physical copies to sit down and kind of talk to you guys about what I read, what I loved, what I didn't really love, my Goodreads app told me that I had read 24 books. When I opened up my recently reads to go look at the ratings, because I can't remember all of them, it didn't count four of the books. So I actually read 28, so I'm feeling a little bit better because my goal originally was 50, but that obviously did not happen. But that's okay. Everybody reads at their own pace. Everybody achieves things differently. And this year was just not a high reading year for me. That is okay. Other things were going on. But with that being said, I say we get started, and we're going to start from the first book I read this year all the way up until the most recent book that I read this year. I'm going to tell you what I rated them, if I loved them, give you a quick synopsis if I can remember what happened, and tell you whether or not I would suggest you read it. So you get a personal recommendation by me from all the books that I read this year. So the very first book that I read this year was Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I gave this book 4 stars. It is a vampire werewolf romantasy. It was Ali Hazelwood's first fantasy that she's ever written. Everything else by her has been contemporary romance, mostly based in STEM. So it's women in STEM falling in love, which I loved. But her take on the fantasy realm and the romance in it was interesting. I did really enjoy it. You follow 2 characters, Misery, who is a vampire, and Lo, who is a werewolf, as they kind of end up intertwined looking for Misery's best friend who's gone missing. Now, it's forced proximity, it is enemies to lovers, very Romeo and Juliet. I did not expect the ending. And in the upcoming year, I will be reading Mate. I'm very excited. So I would definitely recommend this one. I would recommend anything by Ali Hazelwood, let me be very clear. The next thing that I read was Lucky's Trouble by Misty Walker. I also gave this one a 4-star rating. This is a book that I would call no thought, low plot. It's very heavy on the spice. It is the second to last book in a standalone series. And so every book follows a different biker in this biker gang in Reno. It is a spin-off series from the original, which was the Royal Bastards series. And I mean, I really enjoyed it. It was one of those just fluffy, dark romance books to kind of tuck my mind away so I didn't really have to think about anything else. There was no giant world, there was no magic system, there wasn't anything that was really end of the world high stakes. I just really enjoyed this one. I wouldn't really call it cozy, but I didn't have to think much, which is what I wanted. I love Misty Walker's books. Do not think I'm throwing shade, please. I would recommend this to anybody who likes biker romances, anybody who likes a dark romance, anybody who likes smut with medium high level plot. It's a medium plot, I would say. I call it no thought, low plot because it just rolls off the tongue, but I would recommend it. The next set of books that I read actually all kind of tied together because it was a reread for me, and that was Fourth Wing. I got about halfway through Iron Flame and Onyx Storm. Can you believe Onyx Storm came out this year? Because I can't. Onyx Storm follows Violet and Xaden and their ragtag group of friends. There's not a lot I can say about Onyx Storm without giving away Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, but let's just say we get a lot more POVs, we get to hear a lot more voices. The world is not as we knew it, and some demons are definitely worth fighting. It is a story of love and friendship and overcoming adversity and riding dragons. So I obviously gave Onyx Storm a 5-star. I love this series. I love the turn that it's taken. I'm so excited for the next one. Rebecca, whenever you're ready, I'm here. I'm waiting. I'm ready to dive back in. This is a no-brainer. No, I love this series, and I recommend it every chance that I get. If you are a fan of romantasy and you haven't yet read Onyx Storm, if you haven't read the Fourth Wing Empyrean series, what are you doing? Why are you waiting? Go get it right now. Please read it. Please read it. So the next thing that I listened to was Quicksilver by Callie Hart. I also gave this one a 5 stars. I'm pretty liberal with my 5 stars when it comes to fantasy novels. I just really like fantasy. But this book was so much fun. I was sold from the jump. We jump into the story with Ceres Fane in the 3rd Ward, stealing a gauntlet. She's stealing gold to try to buy water and buy food in this oppressive kingdom. And she obviously gets arrested, thrown in front of the queen, and a magical portal opens up at her behest. And who steps through it other than Kingfisher? Kingfisher is a Fey warrior who is not got all of his screws tightened in his noggin. And we come to find out that she is the last alchemist. This is such a fun story. It is so high stakes. The world building was incredible. I'm currently listening to book 2, Brimstone, right now, and I absolutely adored this series. I was listening to it at work, kicking my feet and giggling and screaming silently to myself. I had the best time from start to finish, and if you love romantasy, again, I think you would love this book. If I could reread it again for the first time, I would. The next book that I read this year was Edge of Collapse by Kyla Stone. It is the first book in a very long series about the end of the world. It is a apocalyptic series. This series isn't happening after the apocalypse. It is during the fall of the world. The United States gets hit with an EMP, and you are following a pregnant woman running from her kidnapper that has had her in his basement for years. The kidnapper, Pike, I can't remember the woman's name. Hannah? Hannah. You have Pike's point of view as he hunts her through this wilderness, and Liam Coleman, who is an ex-military, who's just trying to get back to his cabin, who stumbles across Hannah hiding in the snow and decides to help her try to get back to her family. It is a wild ride. Adventure around every turn, thrilling battles in this world with no power as people are trying to navigate. My phones don't work, cars don't work, I can't do this. Everything that we know and everything that we use every day stripped from people. And on top of that, we have a pregnant hostage running for her life. I did give this one 3 stars. I did have a little bit of trouble kind of in the middle. The middle was a little bit difficult and a little slower, but a lot of that was travel. The beginning, it throws you right in, and then at the end, there are a couple of twists that I did not expect. There are some things thrown at you that you were not prepared for, and there is a very bloody battle. So, I did really enjoy this one. I will continue to read this series. There are, I think, 8. Now, this next book took me over a year to read. I started it in June of 2024, and I finished it in February of 2025. Oh, that's not a year. I did my math wrong. It is The Virgin Suicides. I'm so sorry. I cannot pronounce Jeffrey's last name. I will get it incorrect. But this book was very high thought. I had to really focus in. I think that's why it took me so long. This was my by the pool read for a little while, and then I really wanted to know how it ends. This book is told from the perspective of the neighborhood boys, recounting what happened as they were children when a family of 5 sisters systematically takes their own life. These boys have romanticized it as they've gotten older. They talk about how they loved these sisters and how they were in love with them when none of them really knew any of them. They spent no time together, but they were this fascination and this anomaly in their hometown. And we get to hear it as they retell it from years gone by. I really enjoyed this book. It makes you think, hard. It definitely makes you think. And I understand why it's a Pulitzer Prize winning novel, but I definitely would suggest this one to anybody who likes modern day classics. I would suggest this to anyone who likes books that are a little bit deeper and hold heavier themes and can kind of walk with them through some of those things. It feels weird to rate this book at all just because of the depth that it held, but I did really enjoy it. I don't think it's one that I'll pick up again simply because this book was almost too smart for me. Okay, we've seen what I read. But I do like a novel that makes me think and makes me wonder about the human condition every once in a while. So yeah, I would recommend it. Now we're going to jump back onto the fantasy bandwagon with The Prison Healer, which is book 1 in a trilogy written by Lynette Noni. You follow Kiva, a 17-year-old who is the healer at a prison. So good. Who is given the task of keeping a woman alive. Shows up at the prison as a prisoner, and she literally gets told, do not let her die. This woman is accused of being the rebel queen. She is blind and too sick to even talk. This rebel queen can be granted her freedom if she competes in the trial by ordeal, which is trials of fire, water, earth, and air. Being too sick to do it, she's basically being sentenced to death, and Kiva stands in her stead. If she completes the trial, she wins not only the queen's freedom, but her own as well. The hard part about the trials is they're all magical, and the only families who hold magic are the royal families. So we follow Kiva and the friends that she has made in the prison, which are few and far between, as she competes in these trials. Is she going to live? That is a question for you to find out. I gave this book a 5-star. I genuinely really enjoyed it. The magic system was really neat. I love an elemental magic moment. It is a YA, so it's spice-free, so it's family-friendly. I really enjoyed it. I think there is romance that I thought was well done. There are twists and turns, and there are things that I did not expect. And as an avid fantasy reader, I kind of know the tropes. I kind of can see where things are going. And this even caught me off guard. So really enjoyed it. Definitely would recommend it. After The Prison Healer, I read book 2, The Edge of Madness. Well, I listened to it. Edge of Madness is Edge of Collapse from a different point of view. It is actually from Hannah's husband and a young woman that he kind of helps rescue in the beginning's story as the world falls apart. How is their town dealing with it? How are they dealing with it as a community banding together? There is some drug addicts who try to take all the resources. There's a lot of things that go down in that book. But we don't hear from Hannah, Pike, or Liam at all. Zilch. So this series is very much 2 stories coming together that are happening simultaneously. So I really enjoyed it. And again, if you like apocalyptic novels, I think you'll like this series. If you don't like books that are kind of mirroring each other, I will say it doesn't feel like they're mirroring each other, but it does almost feel like 2 separate stories. You might take that into consideration if you do decide to read this particular series. After that one, who else but the king of horror himself, Pet Sematary by Stephen King. This one was a book club pick, I believe. I think it was my friend Sienna's very first month at book club. We love it. I gave this one a 4 stars. And I think my honest opinion would be like a 3.5. Just because the thing about Stephen King, I read a handful of his novels now, and I think that calling him the king of horror is a miscalculation. I think he's a phenomenal thriller writer, but his books don't necessarily scare me. They're more so like thrilling on the edge of my seat, but I'm not like pulling my feet up at night so the monsters don't reach out and get me. Like, I'm not afraid of the dark when I read them. But all of that to be said, I did like Pet Sematary. In Pet Sematary, you are following Dr. Lewis Creed and his family as he takes a job in Maine at a college. I believe he's their new, on-site doctor. When the neighbor across the street comes over to introduce themselves and welcome to the neighborhood, They live on a very busy street, and the neighbor tells them, like, hey, you might want to keep your cat inside, keep an eye on your kids. A lot of pets die on this road. Well, one of his children sees a sign that says Pet Cemetery on it, and the neighbor informs him that, yeah, behind his house, up a little pathway, is a pet cemetery where the neighborhood children come to bury their animals, but to never cross the dead wood tree that's lying in the back. In part 2, the book dissolves into a little bit of mindful chaos. I think it's contained well, and I think that it's written well. I don't want to give too much away, but the grief is real, and the desires and the wants and the questions are honest and raw, and I did enjoy it. Now, do I agree with all of the decisions that were made? Maybe not. I think Dr. Lewis Creed might have made some bad choices, but I am not him, he is not me. If you are a fan of thrillers, if you're a fan of Stephen King, I think you'll love this book. I definitely would give it a try, but be warned, it is creepy. Not scary, but creepy. Sticking with our horror theme, I read Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. I gave this book 3 stars. I don't know that I would recommend this book to anyone I like. Here's the thing. This book was creepy and weird and scary. This is a book that I had to sit down and walk away from a couple of times because it freaked me out really badly. So Horror Movie is you're following this man who as a teenager played, how do I describe this book? I'm going to try to piece this one together. So in Horror Movie, you are following a man 20 years, I believe, after a film that he was a part of was shut down because of strange happenings on set. People were in danger and harmed. He's actually missing a piece of himself. I don't know if that's giving anything away, so I don't want to tell you what he's missing. But it got a lot of traction. It's like an internet famous horror movie story, and a group of young men and women come together and decide they want to remake it shot for shot for the original movie that he was in. They cast him as the thin kid, which was the character that he played in the original movie. Things get dark fast. It goes back and forth between a traditional movie and then chapters are written as screenplay pages. So we can kind of see what's happening in the original movie to what's happening now. And then the end of the book, everything takes a weird turn, and I was very uncomfortable with how it ended. If you're a horror fan, I think you would really enjoy it. If you like weird stuff, and I mean weird stuff, dude, I think you'll like it. I don't really recommend this to a lot of my people. This one, I'm going to tell you right now, is all you, dog. If you want to read it, go for it. If you don't. If you don't like weird stuff, stay far away. But I don't know. I have mixed emotions about this book, so I don't really know if I liked it or I didn't. You know what I mean? After Paul Tremblay's weird interaction, I decided I needed something fun, and also it was time for book club. So I read Lights Out by Nevessa Allen. I knew I was going to mess that up. And I did give this book 5 stars. This is another dark romance novel. It is another... this one kind of centers around mask talk and a stalker romance. So if you like that kind of thing, this is your vibe. You've probably already read it. You follow a nurse who has a thing for a guy on the internet who does mask talk thirst traps. And the other point of view is from the mask talk thirst trap guy as he stalks her. Some things go awry and they kind of band together and fall in love. I liked it. It's a fun little spicy book. I'm gonna read the next one. There's mob ties. I enjoyed this with my whole chest. After Lights Out, I read The Gilded Cage by Lynette Noni. This is book 2 of the Prison Healers trilogy. So after the trial of Ordeal, we follow her on what happens. Did she pass? Is she still in prison? This one you would have to read to find out. I don't want to give too much away. It's an incredibly fun read. I did, however, give it 3 stars because, in my defense, it took me a really long time to kind of get back into this story just because we leave off the first book in such a like high intensity space, and then we kind of enter 2 weeks later, all the steam has let out, and you're kind of just following her around in her day-to-day tasks for a really long time. I was a little bit bored. I'm sorry. The ending, everything snapped back into place, and I was like, this is the high energy that I wanted. I thoroughly enjoyed this world. I enjoyed the secrets that it kept, because there were a lot of secrets revealed in this particular book. And I also really enjoyed the fact that Kiva had to pick between her family or her love interest felt important, because sometimes family's not looking out for you. Does that make sense? In this context. But I did thoroughly enjoy this book, and I do recommend it. The beginning is slow, but I feel like that's a fatal flaw of most second books. You know what I mean? I come across a lot of second books where the beginning is kind of just because they're trying to live up to the hype, but they also have to kind of start a new story. Like, there are things that are happening. They have to introduce new information. So I did really enjoy it. After The Gilded Cage, we read The Red Queen by Victoria Aird. I gave this one 3 stars as well. In Red Queen, the world is split into 2 societies, kind of. The Red Bloods, who are normal, and the Silver Bloods, who have innate magical abilities. They can do all kinds of crazy things. We are following Mare Barrow, who is a Red who has no power, seemingly, as she is trying to get out of conscription for a war that they've been fighting for 100 years. When she kind of literally stumbles into a match for the king's hand in marriage. And as a lowly Red, she shouldn't have magic. But there she is. And she has to live a lie to try to keep from being killed as the king decides what to do with her and how to seal her fate. I thought this book was okay. I thought it was okay. It's not one that I felt myself gravitating towards or recalling quickly. I think it would have been top tier when it was originally published, but there's so many fantasy novels out there now that I feel like the story kind of gets washed away because it almost feels like we've read it before. We've seen this story outlined before, and that hurts my feelings because I think that I would have really liked this book in high school. Does that make sense? I still think that any YA reader would absolutely love this. I think that if you are a young adult who likes fantasy with a hint of romance and lots of magic, go for it. I think you'll love this book. If you have kind of been around the block with Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros and Callie Hart, I don't know that you'll enjoy this one as much. Take that as you will. Okay, guys, I think we're about halfway through, so just bear with me a little while longer, and I'm going to keep talking about the books that I read this year, okay? The next one that we read was Let Him In by William Friend, which was supposed to be a horror novel about a family who is living in their childhood home. It's months after the wife and mother have passed away, right? Yes. It's months after the wife and mother has passed away, and the daughters start seeing a shadow. This shadow has very demonic qualities to it, and Dad, not knowing how to handle it or what to do, invites his sister-in-law, his dead wife's sister, to come and stay with them. Please help me. This is your home. Turns out this entity has been seen in the house before when she was a child. So we follow this family as they're trying to deal with whatever this thing is in their house. And I was let down. I gave this book a 3-star because of the ending. The ending is a little ambiguous. You're not entirely sure what's in the house. Or better yet, who's in the house. But a lot of the book was them just fighting over whether or not this thing is real. I thought it was going to fall flat and be kind of anticlimactic, and then they took a hard pivot at the end, which raised it a star level, but I don't know that I would recommend it necessarily. I think that my friend William was trying to do something, and I think he missed the mark just a little bit. Not my favorite thing. It's not one that I recommend. It's not one that I remember I read very often. After Let Him In by our friend William, I love that pun, I decided it was time to finish off the Prison Hiller trilogy with The Blood Trader by Lynette Noni. This is book 3 with Kiva and her friends, And there's not a lot I can say that won't give it away. But I will tell you, I gave it a 4 stars. Again, this magic system was so much fun. I absolutely loved it. In the 3rd book, they are on a quest to find some things that prove very difficult. There is redemption, there is forgiveness, there is a lot of fighting because it is a phantasmal world. But I did really enjoy this series. I recommend the Blood Healer trilogy to a lot of my friends, often. And you know what? I'm gonna recommend it to you. I think you should read it. I think it's a wonderful YA. I think it's a wonderful world. I think it's a super fun magic system. I think it's well written. Top tier. After I finally finished the Blood Healer trilogy, I thought to myself, let's let my dad pick some of the books that I read. Which brings me to Mr. Penumbra's 24-hour bookstore, which also had a short novella called Ajax Penumbra 1969, which is like the prequel to this story where it kind of originates. Now, Mr. Penumbra's 24-hour bookstore is not what it seems. You start this book thinking it's going to be a little bit of magical realism, but it's actually not. It is thought-provoking. It is a wonderful story. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was rooting for the main character, Clay Johnson, who takes on a job at a bookstore just trying to make ends meet, and he starts meeting very peculiar patrons who come in. But they don't buy books, they borrow books. They swap them in and out. They're looking for something, but he's not entirely sure what. One of the only rules he's given on his graveyard shift is don't open any of the books that get traded. Sell as many books as you want. Read anything from the front of the store. But don't open any of the books from the back of the store. What does he do? He opens one of the books, obviously. And that is his first test to see if his curiosity is what they're looking for. They are looking for the great answer to a question asked long ago, and the answer to immortality. This book is interesting, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I gave it 3 stars because it was a little hard to get into and kind of invest in, but the longer I sat with it, the more I want to give it like 4.5. Like, I keep coming back to the story. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved this concept, and truly, we all know the answer to immortality. I don't want to tell you the answer. I think you should read it and find it for yourself. So yes, I do recommend Mr. Penumbra's 24-hour bookstore. It's one of my favorite books this year, I think. Why did I not give it 5 stars? I'm changing my rating. I think this is a 5-star read. It has been one of my favorite books from this year, honestly. So after Mr. Penumbra's 24-hour bookstore, I jumped into One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. Rachel Gillig, with this duology, became one of my must-read authors. Okay, One Dark Window. You are following Elspeth, this girl in this what seems to be medieval town who has a nightmare that lives in her brain. The magic system is entirely built on a deck of cards. She teams up with a rebellion of sorts to hunt down the cards before the king does so they can lift this magical mist. Now, the thing about the mist is it was created by the spirit of the woods. Anybody who wanders into the mist without their talisman gets an infection of magic. Now, if you survive the physicians who are hunting these people down to kill them and make it through the sickness, you are granted magic without the cards. But the magic is degenerative. Elspeth got sick as a child, and she doesn't seem to be deteriorating. So we follow her and a love interest as secrets spill out, and we follow her and her nightmare, who talks to her, through some really thrilling adventures. This was an incredible read. The story was phenomenal. It was very lyrical. I loved the prose, the way that she wrote it. The magic system was so in-depth and so unique. I had to give it 5 stars. I had to! What do you mean? I loved One Dark Window. But I did decide that that was time to take a little bit of a break from fantasy and magic. But I stayed in fiction with My Sister the Serial Killer by, I'm not going to try to pronounce your name because I don't want to butcher it. But we follow an older sister as she cleans up the murders of the men that have been dating her younger sister. kind of throws it all out there in the first chapter. She gets a call from her baby sister who says that her boyfriend has attacked her and he's dead. She needs her help. This is the third boyfriend that she has dumped in the river. All right? We follow this older sister as she navigates. Does she call the police? But this is her family. And there's a handful of flashbacks from their abusive father that kind of lends to why she's so protective of the younger sister. That is until the younger sister starts dating the man that she loves. Now she has to choose between protecting her sister or protecting the man that she claims to love. Ugh, rip. I loved this book. I thought it was so good. I gave it 3 stars, but I do recommend it all the time. I think it deserves more of like a 3.5 or even a 4 because I've sat with it and I thought it was so good. The ending is not what you expect it to be. Literally at all. No part of the end of this book did I expect. It's written by a Nigerian author. It is based in Nigeria, so there's a lot of like customs and things that are it was a really fun learning experience, if nothing else. I definitely recommend this book. This is where my Goodreads gets a little bit unreliable and I'm kind of having to fill in a little bit of gaps here. But I believe after My Sister the Serial Killer, I read The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out of His Window and Disappeared by Jonason. I don't know that I'm pronouncing that right. I didn't like this book. I should have DNF'd it, but I was hoping it would get better. This book, we are following an old man on his 100th birthday. He climbs out of the window of his nursing home and goes on an adventure. He just disappears. It jumps around between his past story and the adventures that he lived as a youthful man. He met people like President Roosevelt and Einstein. And he was involved in multiple wars, and he kind of just got traded back and forth because he was a demolitionist, knew how to blow things up. And then it would bounce back to right now, which was a story that I really enjoyed. I didn't really like his history. It felt disconjointed and kind of like sewn together sloppily. The story that's happening right now is he's being investigated for multiple murders, and they're trying to hunt him down across, I want to say, the Swedish countryside, as him and the pals he makes along the way just kind of roll on, don't think nothing of it. That part of the story was really interesting and I really enjoyed. I didn't like this book and I don't recommend it. I just didn't. I personally do not recommend it to my friends. It was not a fun read. I did not enjoy my time here. Next in my gear of reading was Silver Elite by Danny Francis. I did really enjoy this book. I'm not gonna lie. I gave this book 4 stars. It is a romantasy. Actually, yeah. It fits more of like dystopian sci-fi more than fantasy, I think. We are following Wren Darlington, right? Yes, Darlington. We're following Wren Darlington as her guardian gets arrested and murdered. So the world is kind of split into 2 types of people. People who are normal, and then the modifieds who have telekinetic abilities. They can speak in their mind or project images or, on some occasions, control people. Their veins glow whenever they use their mind powers, and that's how they're kind of sussed out by the government. The government is out to take all of them out. They don't want any of them to intermingle with society. They're, quite frankly, afraid of them. Wren is just one of those silvers. Oops. When her uncle is arrested for being a modified and hiding, they take her into custody as well, and she is thrown into the military to prove her loyalty to the government and that she had no idea that her uncle was modified. We battle with Wren as she decides who can she trust, what does she do, how do I join the rebellion to take them down from the inside, and not all is as it seems. Not everyone that is in the military is unmodified. I can't remember the other word for it right now. But I really enjoyed this one. I thought that the concept was really unique. I do liken it to Divergent and the Hunger Games in like certain lights. It felt similar. That's the best way I can put that. It felt similar, but not the way the Red Queen felt similar. You know what I'm saying? This one felt more unique, but also not sisters, but like second cousins. You know what I'm saying? Related, but not the same. I do recommend this book. I love Silverly. I will be reading the next one. The end of this book caught me so off guard. I was unprepared for how this book ended, and it shook me to my very core. So I need to know what happens next. Now, I don't remember where. I think it was after Silver Elite. It was after Silver Elite. I had to finish up with Rachel Gillig. So I read Two Twisted Crowns, the second book in that duology about magical cards. I will say this one was a little bit unique just because we were still getting points of view from Elspeth, but the majority of the points of view were from Elm, one of the princes. So it felt almost like a different story, but it wasn't. We were still hunting for the cards. I loved this duology. This is probably my favorite series of this year. I'm so glad that I got to start and finish it in the same year. I think I finished it in the same month even. I also gave Two Twisted Crowns 5 stars, and this just solidified that Rachel Gillig is an author I must read. And the reason that I know for a fact that is true is because the next book that I read was The Night and the Moth, also by Rachel Gillig. I don't have that one in my possession because I listened to it via audiobook. Now, I will say, The Night and the Moth had a slower beginning. It took me a minute to get invested. Okay? But I did give it 5 stars. The Night and the Moth, we are following Six, who is the 6th diviner, who her whole job for the last 10 years has been to drown. Every day, she is drowned in the spring water over and over again so she can look upon the gods' omens and decide your fate. Is it a good omen or a bad omen? How do the gods feel about you? And then her diviners start disappearing. These are her sisters, her only family for the last 10 years. She has no idea where she came from, but she does remember her name. She sets off with her soon-to-be love interest, Roderick, to find her diviners. She is on the hunt for the women that she loves. And who else does she come face to face with but the gods themselves? This was another really fun take on the magic system. It was super unique, not something that I feel familiar with at all. I absolutely adored this book. There was a character, a little gargoyle, and he's so funny. He made me crack up through that book. It was so good. But we love to see a heroine take charge in that way. She also was a strong gal. I'm just going to throw that out there. She was a strong girly. But finding her diviners is not all that she found. The ending of that book was so sad. I was so sad. I sat in the office and cried while I was listening to that book. To the point that one of my other technicians turned to me and asked me if I was okay, and I had to literally go, I'm so sorry, it's my book, I'm fine. And when I told her she had to read it, it had to go on her TBR, she said, no, you're sobbing. And I said, it's so good. So if that doesn't tell you what you need to know, I don't know what to tell you, my guy. It was, oh my God, I loved it. Rachel Gillig is up there with Sarah and Rebecca, for sure. And the very last book that I read this year was Your Blood, My Bones by Kelly Andrew. Your Blood, My Bones. This book and I have a rocky relationship. Let's put it that way. I started this book. 2 chapters in, I hated it. I was so mad. I felt as though they gave you the entire plot in the first 2 chapters and there was no point in reading the rest. because everything was just laid out in front of you. You didn't need to know anything else. I didn't like it. But the concept of a girl going home and finding her childhood best friend strung up in the basement in chains, who wants to see her dead to free himself of immortality, fighting together to defeat a beast, sounded so cool. So I wanted to give it a chance. So I kept reading. Tell me why this silly little YA book that I didn't even like had me terrified of the shadows in my hallway. Tell me why this silly little YA book turned into one of the best nature horror novels I've ever read. Tell me why this silly little YA book had me tearing up and so sad to see it end. Tell me why. I did bump it down to a 3.75 because of the beginning. The beginning made me mad. I'm not gonna lie. Kelly, the beginning of this book was not my favorite thing. I don't know what it is. I was mad at you for a hot minute. But about a quarter of the way through the book, because I was like, I'll give it 65 pages. By 50, I was like, okay, I'm sold now. By 50 pages, I went from telling my friends, don't bother to read it, to you have to. So I would say give it a chance. Maybe ignore the first couple of chapters. You gotta read them to set up the story, but give it a chance. It was a really good book. But that is all of the books that I read this year, what I thought about them, what I rated them, and if I would recommend them to my friends, which you guys are my friends, so here's my recommendations. I definitely think you should read anything by Rachel Gillig. I think Your Blood and My Bones had a bad start but a great finish. And I don't think you should read The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out of His Window and Disappeared. I just don't think it was a fun novel. If you have any ideas for books that you would like me to see or specific videos you would like me to try my hand at, please feel free to leave a comment. I want to hear your opinions. I want to please you while also finding joy in my reading. If you are brand new here, you should hit subscribe because I post videos every Wednesday at noon. And if you hit the bell icon while you're there, you'll be notified every time that they go up. And if you like recaps, if you want to know what I'm reading, go ahead and hit the like button. I mean, it's right there, why not? All of that to be said, I love you guys so much. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and I will see you in the acknowledgements. Bye!